I first saw it in the bathroom. I was brushing my teeth when my wife Erin came in to pee. I was bent over the faucet, scooping some water into my mouth to rinse out. "Don't forget Ryan's tea ceremony today at 11, said Erin from behind me on the toilet. Ryan was our 4-year-old son. His preschool was having a little event where the kids get dressed up and serve tea to their parents. I spit into the sink. "I'll be there," I said, straightening up and wiping my face off on the hand towel. Then I looked in the mirror. That's when I saw it and shrieked in horror. Erin's face, reflected in the mirror, looked like hamburger meat, like it had been cut and burnt and smashed a million times over. "Roland, what's wrong?" I turned slowly to look at Erin, who was just pulling up her underwear. She looked normal. I glanced back at her reflection in the mirror. It was also now normal. "Sorry about that," I said, feeling dizzy. "Just remembered that I have a report due at work by the end of the day." I tried to laugh, but it came out as a choked gasp. "How about you, honey? You feeling okay?" Erin smiled. "I am," she said. "Kind of annoying the alarm didn't go off this morning, but honestly, I needed the extra sleep. Got about, 4.5 years worth of sleep debt to work off." I returned the smile and chalked up the terrifying image I had seen in the mirror to the leftover flash of a nightmare or something. But the nightmare wasn't over. At work, it was hot. By the time I'd ridden the elevator to my floor, I was soaked in sweat. But that's partly because the elevator didn't go straight to my floor. Although I was the only one in it, and I definitely pushed the 5 button, the elevator took me to the 7th floor. I didn't even notice until it was too late. I stepped off the elevator, the doors closed behind me, and I walked to the right like I always did. I came to a closed door that wasn't supposed to be there. That's when I finally realized that I was on the wrong floor. I went back to the elevator, pushed the down button, and waited. For a minute, 2, 5, 10. Damn thing's broken, I thought. I really didn't have a report to finish that day, and with having to leave for Ryan's tea ceremony, I would be cutting it close. I didn't have time to wait for an elevator that would never arrive, and decided to use the stairs, even though it was hot as hell in that building. I walked back to the door and opened it. There were 2 men in white lab coats there yelling at each other. I caught some of what they were saying. "It doesn't matter how it happened, just get it fixed." "We're all trying to fix it, even if not all of us screwed it up." All right. Well, I've done my part. The broadcast has been sent to..." That's when they saw me. "Hey," said the taller one. "What are you doing here?" I shrugged. "Elevator's broken," I said. "I'm just looking for the stairs. Can you guys point the way? I've never been on this floor before." "The elevator's broken? Now?" shouted the shorter one. Then, from behind me, I heard a ding. "Oh, sounds like it's here after all," I said, backing out of the doorway. The men had a nervous and somehow dangerous energy that I was eager to get away from. I got in the elevator, pushed the 5 button 5 times, and finally arrived at the proper floor. It was even hotter there than it was in the rest of the building. I walked right over to the thermostat and looked at it. It was one of those newfangled smart thermostats, but the thing was flickering a bunch of random numbers. It was obviously broken. So much for technology, I thought. I went over to the secretary's desk, wiping my forehead. Denise was there and looked up when she saw me. "Good morning, Ryan," she said. Ryan was my son's name. My name was Roland. I didn't correct her, figuring that the heat was making her loopy like it was starting to make me feel loopy. I assume the HVAC guys haven't been alerted to the problem, I said. Denise gave me a confused look. Problem? She said. I wasn't made aware of any problem. I wiped my forehead again. The heat, Denise. The heat is the problem. Denise smiled and pulled her sweater closed a little tighter. Wait, a sweater? I suppose it is a little chilly in here, Ralph, said Denise. I thought that's how you like it, though. I started to get dizzy again. I left without another word and went into my office. I sat down and tried to turn on the computer, but it wouldn't turn on. I kept smashing the power button again and again and again. Nothing. It had to be 100 degrees in there, at least. And there was a strange smell, like when you take your car to a mechanic, the smell of motor oil and welding torches and grease. It occurred to me that I might be losing my mind. Whatever the case, it was clear that I wouldn't be getting any work done at the office. I had a remote set up where I could take some files home and work from there, so that's what I decided to do. I grabbed some files and headed out of the building. I skipped the elevator and took the stairs, even though I felt on the verge of a heat stroke. When I made it outside, it was even hotter, and that terrible smell was still there. Maybe I am having a stroke, I thought. That's what had finally taken my father, a stroke that bled out into the brain after 5 smaller ones over the course of 5 years. I knew what to look for, and when I got in the car, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. There in the back seat was a man in a white lab coat, reflected in the mirror. I whipped around, but he was gone. I am losing it, I thought. I'm going insane. I drove home carefully, trying to blast the car's AC and only getting hot air. Just to take my mind off the possibility that I was going nuts, I turned on the radio. I have to be honest, said a woman over the car speakers. We don't have a firm grasp on this as it currently stands. Reports are coming in from all over the place. As yet, there's no reason to panic, but there is plenty of reason to pull some bodies off their Code 5 positions and go directly into a Code 10 situation. There's too many leaks in the dam, and we have to act now. Suddenly, the radio switched to a Pink Floyd song, and the AC came blasting through the vents. It felt good, but it didn't do much to assuage the concern that I was in the process of losing my mind. I was able to get a bit of work done at home. I was just getting dressed in some fresh clothes for Ryan's tea ceremony when the bedroom TV turned on. There on the screen, in white text against a black background, it read, "The system is your friend." Then a voice started up. If you can hear this, you may be wondering what is going on. First, let us assure you that there is absolutely nothing to worry about. This is simply a case of a few bad lines of code and will be resolved quickly. Any aberrations that you witness, say by peering into a reflective surface, are of absolutely no consequence, we assure you. Now for the important part. No matter what you hear from any derelicts that you may encounter, you must remember that the system is your friend. Without the system, you would find yourself in a very scary place. We can promise you, you don't want to know what life is like without the system protecting you. In the coming days, you may experience terrifying glimpses of what that looks like, and you must always remember, the system is on your side. We are looking out for you, and we want to see you thrive. If you hear anybody try to tell you differently, you must report them immediately. Simply declare for a code, censored, situation in a calm, clear voice. We will hear you and resolve the problem at once. We understand that this may be overwhelming for you. After much consideration for your well-being, we have decided that it is best to inform you of the possibility of experiencing abnormalities. We once again assure you that within a few days, life will return to normal, and you will never, ever remember anything being out of place. In the meantime, we thank you for your patience and cooperation. There are bad actors out there, spreading malicious rumors about the system, and even trying to harm the system. You must report them at once. Remember, code censored. We will hear you. Finally, since only a few people will even experience these minor bumps, and so receive this message, we ask you that you simply don't mention anything at all about the existence of the system to anyone whatsoever. It's our job to make your life easier, and this is all your way of helping us help you. Thank you, and try to enjoy your day. The TV flicked off, and I stood staring at the blank screen in dumb shock. I could make out my own faint reflection there. Rather than the dress pants and shirt that I had just changed into, it looked like I was wearing a coarse gray tunic of some sort. I blinked hard, and when I looked again, I was wearing my dress clothes again. I wondered about checking myself into a hospital. Of the two alternatives, that my wife was being controlled by something called the system, or that I was crazy, I actually preferred the latter possibility. Something might be done about that, some combination of medication and therapy. But if nothing was real, well, I didn't even want to think about that. I pulled myself together and drove to Ryan's tea ceremony. Nothing unusual happened on the way to Ryan's school or during the ceremony itself. Ryan came outside, dressed in a little suit, carrying a tray of tea for me and Aaron. We sat by the little pond there and drank it, and afterwards, the whole class sang, "I'm a Little Teapot." The parents joined in, and for the first time all day, I felt like everything was normal and good. The ceremony ended, and I stood up to give Ryan a hug goodbye and to thank him for the tea. As I was doing so, I happened to look into the pond. I should have seen birch trees and clouds reflected on the surface, but I didn't. I saw harsh fluorescent lights hanging from an industrial ceiling. And there, at the edge of the pond, was my own head, reflected back to me. There was something attached to the side of it. I couldn't see clearly what it was, but it was there, on my head, and it was dark and writhing with many limbs, about the size of a rat. Some instinct in me screamed that I had to stay very calm for my own safety and for the safety of my family. I released Ryan from the hug. "Thanks for a great time, bud," I said. Then, still looking into the pond, I reached up to the side of my head and grasped the thing that was there. I pulled. I felt an incredible pain and saw shocks of color swirling around in front of my eyes. The thing would not let go. I pulled harder, and the pain increased, until I felt on the verge of passing out. Finally, I felt a sharp relief as the thing pulled free, and I held it in my hand. I looked at it. The creature that I held was nearly incomprehensible. Its form kept shifting, now looking more like a spider, now more like an octopus, now some combination of the two, with many legs and tentacles and suckers and fangs. Now it was blurry, and now it was so clear that I could see the tiny black hairs that covered it. Now a green eye appeared, and what I assumed the creature's back, and now it blinked out again. Now there were 3 eyes in different places, and now none again. I hurled the creature away from me into the pond, but now I saw that it wasn't a pond at all. It was a hole in the middle of a concrete floor that seemed to drop down into endless darkness. I spun around to look at Ryan and Aaron. They each had one of those creatures attached to their heads, and both looked very different than I was used to. As before, when I saw it in the bathroom mirror, Aaron's face was a pulpy mess of horror. Ryan was pale as a ghost and completely bald. I forced myself to stay calm and looked slowly around. We were in an enormous room, full of people milling aimlessly and slowly around, like zombies. Each of them was wearing a gray tunic, and each had a creature stuck to their heads. Dispersed among these people were men and women in white lab coats, as I had seen on the 7th floor of my office building. This latter group of people did not have the monstrous creatures on the sides of their heads. They were observing the first group and jotting notes down on clipboards. Finally, there was a third, smaller group of people, or I guessed that they were people. They were dressed in full military gear from helmet to boots and were heavily armed. They were patrolling the area. I noticed that the tunics we were wearing had hoods, and some people had them up. I quickly put mine up, to make it less likely that somebody would notice that I no longer had a monster on my head. I looked at my wife and child. Their eyes were empty. "Okay, guys," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's all go home together, okay? I'm gonna take the rest of the day off, and we'll go get some ice cream or something. Sound good?" "Oh boy," said Ryan in a flat voice. "I love ice cream." "That sounds wonderful," said Erin, also in a flat tone, and through one side of her mouth. The other side wouldn't open. I felt like crying, but I knew that above everything, I had to act like nothing was wrong. I saw 2 doors and made a quick calculation. I picked the one that was further away, but was less likely to bring us near a lab coat or a military guard. I led Erin and Ryan by their hands, and we were halfway to our door when the other one burst open. 2 of the military guards came in, dragging a woman in a gray tunic between them. The woman's face was bloodied, and I saw that she didn't have a creature on the side of her head. She started screaming, "You people have to wake up! The system is not your friend! They are enslaving you and feeding off you! Find a mirror! Find the Gorlock on your head, pull it off and crush it into green slime! You have to!" One of the guards smashed the woman's head with the butt end of an assault rifle, and she stopped screaming. I kept walking, slowly, with my family occasionally stealing a glance behind me. The guards dragged the woman to the center of the room, where the endless hole was. They picked her up and dropped her body into it. We made it to the door. I took one last look around and tried it. It opened, and I quickly pushed my family through and then followed behind. We were in a long, dark hallway. There were 5 or 6 closed doors. We kept walking and turned the corner. We came to a set of stairs going down and then to another hallway. We walked for what seemed like hours, seemingly getting deeper and deeper into the building. Many of the doors that we passed had windows in them that I looked through. On the other side were giant rooms, identical to the one we had been held in, with a mass of people in gray tunics, the lab coats, and the military guards. Finally, I had to rest. I found what appeared to be a small closet, shoved my family in, and locked the door. That is where we are now. I have removed the creature from Erin and crushed it into green slime, as instructed by the poor woman who was thrown into the hole. Erin and I have agreed to leave the creature on Ryan's head for the time being, for 2 reasons. First, because this reality is terrifying and we have no way out. It is too much for a child to bear. It is too much for us to bear, but we have to. Second, because we have a long-shot plan. If you are reading this, it means that the plan has succeeded against all odds. Ryan believes that he is at home now. We have instructed him how to turn on the computer and open the voice-to-text feature. I am dictating this completely make-believe story to him, and he is repeating me 1 word at a time. When we are done, He will post this in the simulated world, and I only pray that it has reached you. The system is not your friend. I don't know what exactly it is, or how or why it exists, or if all of humanity is in its grips. But please, if you can hear me, know that there are a lot of people trapped in the system. You may be one of them, and not even know it. You must find a way to destroy the system. Please.